My name is Emma Carter, and I'm 24 years old. I used to live with my dad, my stepmom, and my older brother, Jake, but everything changed when my stepmom made a demand that made me leave. One evening, I came home tired from work. I worked hard to help pay for the house, but no one ever thanked me. When I walked in, my stepmom, Linda, was sitting at the kitchen table. My dad was next to her, looking at the mail. She looked at me with a serious face. "We need to talk," she said. I sighed and sat down, knowing it wouldn't be good. "You're an adult now," Linda said. "If you want to stay here, you need to start paying rent." I was shocked. Pay rent? I already helped pay for food, electricity, and even part of the house loan, but she acted like I didn't help at all. "Linda, I already pay for a lot of things," I said, trying to stay calm. She shook her head. "That doesn't matter. From now on, you need to pay a set amount every month." I looked at my dad, hoping he would back me up. "Dad, you know I already pay so much. Why are you okay with this?" He sighed. "Linda's right. Emma, you live here, so you should pay your share." My heart sank. He was siding with her. What hurt more was that they thought Jake was the one paying for everything, but it was really me. Jake barely paid for anything, yet Linda treated him like he was the best. At that moment, I made my decision. "Fine," I said, standing up. "If I have to pay rent to live here, then I won't live here at all." That night, I packed my bags and left. They didn't try to stop me. They probably thought Jake could handle the bills, but soon, they would find out the truth. I checked into a small motel. The room was tiny, and the bed was uncomfortable, but at least I had peace. For the first time in years, I was free. The next morning, I checked my phone. No missed calls. Not from Dad, not from Jake, not even from Linda. A week passed, then another. I moved into a small apartment with a friend from work. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Then the calls started. At first, it was Dad, then Jake. I ignored them, but after a while, I got curious and finally picked up when Dad called again. "Emma, we need to talk," he said, sounding serious. I leaned back. "Oh, now you want to talk?" He sighed. "Look, I know you're upset, but we're having money problems." I almost laughed. Now that the bills weren't magically being paid, they were struggling? "Maybe you should ask Jake," I said. Silence. That's when I knew they had finally realized Jake wasn't the one paying. He never was. 2 days later, Jake showed up at my apartment. I saw him through the peephole and thought about ignoring him. For years, he let them believe he was the responsible one while I did all the work. I opened the door, crossing my arms. "What do you want?" He looked nervous. "Emma, listen, I know things got messed up, but we need to figure this out." I raised an eyebrow. "We?" He sighed. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. Linda just assumed I was paying, and I never corrected her." I scoffed. "So you took credit while I struggled?" He had no excuse. After a long pause, he finally admitted, "They're in trouble, Emma. Dad is stressed. Linda is freaking out. They can't handle the bills. They need help." I stared at him. They still thought I would fix things for them? I shook my head. "That's not my problem anymore." He looked shocked. "You're really just going to walk away?" I held my ground. "I already did." After that, things got worse for them. Linda tried to act like everything was fine, but they were falling apart. They missed mortgage payments. The electricity was shut off once. Suddenly, Jake wasn't the favorite anymore. And people started to notice. Neighbors, family, friends, even relatives who used to praise Jake and Linda. And me? For the first time, I was free. But I had a feeling this wasn't over yet. A month passed without any calls. I thought they had finally accepted that I was gone. I was wrong. One evening, after a long shift at work, I came home to find Linda standing outside my apartment. My heart sank. Of all people, I never expected her to come looking for me. She saw me and straightened up. "Emma," she said. I thought about walking away, but something in her look, tired, stressed, and desperate, made me stop. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. She sighed heavily. "I think we should talk." I crossed my arms. "Talk about what?" "How you made me pay all the bills, gave Jake all the credit, and then kicked me out when I had enough." She pursed her lips. "That's not what happened." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, really? Then what did happen?" She hesitated. For the first time, she didn't have a sharp response. She looked away, like she was trying to find the right words. Finally, she spoke. "We're losing the house." I wasn't surprised. I had seen this coming when I left. But hearing her say it out loud made it feel real. "Jake can't pay for everything," she admitted. "We thought." She stopped herself. I raised an eyebrow. "You thought what?" "That I'd come back and fix everything for you?" She didn't answer. I shook my head. "Not my problem." She looked at me sharply. "Emma, this is your family." That word stung. She had never treated me like family. I took a deep breath. "No, Linda. Family doesn't treat each other the way you treated me. I was just an ATM to you, and now you're realizing you made the wrong choice." She swallowed hard. "I made mistakes." I blinked. Was she apologizing? No. She wasn't sorry for what she did, only for what happened afterward. I refused to feel guilty. "I hope you figure it out, Linda, but I'm not coming back." I turned and walked away. I thought that would be the end of it. But a week later, I got a call that changed everything. It was Jake. His voice was panicked. "Emma, Dad collapsed. He's in the hospital." For the first time since I left, I felt real worry. Not for Linda, not for Jake, but for Dad. I didn't hesitate. "I'm on my way." I grabbed my keys and rushed out the door. The drive to the hospital felt like a blur. By the time I got there, I was breathless. I spotted Jake in the waiting area, pacing. He looked up when he saw me, his face showing relief. "Emma," he said, his voice tight. "They're still running tests." I swallowed. "What happened?" Jake ran a hand through his hair. "He just collapsed. One minute, he was fine, the next he was on the floor." "Is he awake?" Jake shook his head. "Not yet." Then, Linda appeared. Her eyes were red, and her usual neat appearance was a mess. When she saw me, she froze. We stared at each other for a moment. "I called you," she finally said, her voice quiet. I frowned. "No, you didn't." Her face twitched. "I wanted to." I wasn't sure if I believed her, but I didn't have the energy to argue. Just then, a doctor walked in. "Carter family?" he asked. We all rushed forward. "How is he?" I asked. The doctor sighed. "He had a minor heart attack. We stabilized him, but he's weak. He needs rest, a healthier lifestyle, and less stress." I exhaled. A heart attack. Dad wasn't invincible after all. "He's awake if you want to see him." I stepped into Dad's room, my heart heavy seeing him so small in the bed, pale and tired. "Hey, Dad," I said softly. He slowly turned his head. For a moment, he just stared. Then, to my surprise, tears filled his eyes. "Emma," he whispered. I swallowed, moving closer. He took a shaky breath. "I messed up, didn't I?" Tears burned in my eyes, but I held them back. "Yeah, Dad. You did." He nodded slowly. "I let Linda control too much. I should have stood up for you." I stayed quiet, letting him talk. "I knew you helped with the bills," he said. I didn't want to fight with Linda. It was easier to pretend everything was fine." I bit my lip. "Easier for you, but not for me." He reached for my hand. "I'm sorry, Emma." For the first time, I actually felt like he meant it. I squeezed his hand gently. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet." He nodded. "I understand." And for the first time in years, he really did. As I left the room, I saw Linda standing nearby, looking defeated. I walked past her, but she called out, "Emma, wait." I sighed. "What, Linda?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Are you really never coming back?" I turned to her, tilting my head. "Why do you care? You wanted me gone." She looked away. "I didn't think it would turn out like this." I crossed my arms. "You mean, you didn't think I'd actually leave?" She didn't answer. 4 years. She made me feel like I wasn't enough, like I was just a burden. Now, she wanted to act like she cared? I took a deep breath. I wasn't the same girl who let her walk all over me anymore. I built my own life now, Linda, one without you. Her face crumpled. I turned and walked away, this time, for good. Leaving the hospital that night felt different, lighter, for the first time in years. I wasn't carrying the weight of my family's expectations. I was free. But freedom had its own challenges. I drove back to my apartment, my mind racing. Dad had apologized. For once, he actually admitted he was wrong, but did that change anything? Could I ever forgive him? And Linda, she wasn't the same arrogant woman I had left behind. She was broken, but was it guilt, or just regret that her perfect world was crumbling? I shook the thoughts away as I stepped inside my apartment. This was my life now, and I had no intention of looking back. A few days later, I was at work when my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Dad, I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'd like to try, maybe dinner sometime, just the two of us. I stared at the message, my emotions tangled. A month ago, I would have ignored it. But now, did I want to give him a chance? I sighed and typed back. I'll think about it, baby steps. That evening, just as I was settling in with a book, someone knocked on my door. I groaned, if it's a neighbor selling something, I swear. But when I opened the door, it was Jake. I frowned, what are you doing here? He hesitated before speaking, can we talk? I crossed my arms. About what? How you let Linda treat me like garbage? Or how you let her believe you were paying the bills when you weren't? He sighed, rubbing his temples. I messed up, okay? I leaned against the doorframe. Yeah, Jake, you did. He nodded. I didn't correct her because I liked being the favorite. I liked having it easy, but when you left, everything fell apart, and I realized how much you actually did for us. I stayed silent, letting him continue. I never should have let you carry everything on your own. I'm sorry, Emma. I searched his face, looking for dishonesty, but I didn't find any. I exhaled. You're a little late, don't you think? I know, he admitted, but I still wanted to say it. For the first time, I saw him not as the golden child, but as a flawed person. Maybe he had been just as manipulated as I had. I softened. Apology accepted, but I'm not going back, Jake. That life is over for me. He nodded. I know, I hope we can be family again someday. I hesitated before responding. We'll see, maybe not today, maybe not even soon, but someday. A week later, I sat alone in a quiet coffee shop, sipping my drink and watching the world go by. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living in someone else's shadow. I wasn't carrying anyone else's burdens. I was just Emma. And that was enough. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more great stories. Don't forget to tap the notification bell, so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts in the comments, we love hearing from you. See you next time, and take care.